My name is Mark Amaza. I live in Abuja. I'm a branding and communications expert, and I run Mind Capital, a branding, PR, and strategy firm. I'm defending the idea that Nigeria needs restructuring, and the reason for my reason for advocating for restructuring Nigeria is the fact that Nigeria's structure states is very faulty in the sense that there's extremely excessively too much power in the center. We have a system where, though it's said to be federal, it's actually more unitary. So we have a situation where, excuse me, taxes such as VAT, company income taxes, or petroleum mining taxes all go to the center. As a result, it has disincentivized the states from working hard to building their own economies. So, while a state, there's no incentive for a state to invest in improving its economy if it's not going to get money from it directly. On the other side, it has pampered the states too much by sustaining them. So we have states that depend on the center for allocations or aid, and it's not even the good kind of aid because it cannot even determine where the money goes to. If you look at the statistics from a Ministry of Finance, Lagos alone contributes 75% of Nigeria's VAT. The remaining 35 states contribute 25%. And one large reason for this is because there's no incentive for the other states to work to improve their economies. We need to move away from that model to a model where states are largely responsible for their own finances. So they depend, so no, it's not a situation where a state depends wholly on federal allocation. No, a situation where almost only two states are able to finance up to 60% of their revenue from IGR is not is a very wrong model. So we need to move to a model where states are able to live exist by themselves and not by handouts from the federal government. This is the kind of restructuring we need, and from there we need to also now give states more responsibilities. Things such as a federal police system is not supposed to be. We need to have a more decentralized police system, a decentralized prison system. Many there's too many laws, too many powers at the center that need to go to the state, and this is a conversation we need to have. Nigeria, as it's currently structured, will not grow because we keep depend and that will continue to depend wholly on oil. So the earlier have that conversation and move towards a more tax-based society that is decentralized, that states and local governments have the incentive to build their economies and to generate value from their citizens, we will continue staying at this level. Thank you.
You've touched really important points, Mark. The issue of allocation, it's a big one. The issue of too much power at the center is the other side of the coin. I am for restructuring as well, and I agree with 100% of what you said. I think our states must and needs to have the power to take care of themselves. With that regard, I like to use the analogy of an estate to demonstrate what a restructured Nigeria would look like. Mark and I have been saying how states need to be independent, both monetary and responsibility wise, right? So imagine an estate. An estate is basically an enclosure of many houses, right? These houses could be 10, 20 or more or less, right? And each of these houses, the residents of each of these houses make their own laws in the sense that they decide what to eat, they decide where to travel, they decide which TV to watch, right? You know, you don't go to somebody's house and decide for them what they want to cook or eat or where to go, right? And through this kind of setting, everybody lives peacefully because no one is in everyone's business. So that is what a restructured Nigeria looks like. Every state has its its own laws, has its own rules, but ultimately, right, the state is not a human being. The people are the one deciding this. So that's why the individual is the ultimate sovereignty. Just like at home, each of the family member makes up the house. The house is just where they stay, right? So now, Mark, the next question to you is why you support restructuring based on your state of origin. I understand you are from Maiduguri, which is located in northern Nigeria, and I believe you and I know that most resistance to restructuring has been from the north. So why are you different? Why are you from the north and supporting restructuring?
You're right. It's actually unusual to find someone from the North supporting restructuring of through federalism because it has been made sadly into a North versus South game. There's a lot of fear in the North that is being done to get back at the North. We're not producing anything. We're living off oil rent and all that. But I see it as a truly federal country actually help to unlock the potentials of the North. And I'll give you an example with my own state. Borno State is the only state with three international borders. So we border Cameroon, Niger Republic, and Chad. Um, it's an excellent opportunity to be a export manufacturing base to into Central Africa. But then we don't do anything about that. So even though we have a on paper we have an export processing zone on the Cameroonian border in a town called Banki, nothing has been done to develop it. We have the Lake Chad, and Lake Chad produces one third of Nigeria's freshwater fish. The other one third coming from River Niger and tributaries, and then from the Niger Delta area. But Lake Chad has been shrinking for years, and it's one of the remote causes of Boko Haram. The fact that the shrinking of the lake has displaced many people, um, robbed many people of being able to have their livelihoods. And we have to understand that extremism doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has only in a fertile ground has to be a fertile ground for it to grow. It's just and there are many opportunities that the state has. Is it tourism, where they only sell all the vegetational zones? You have the deserts, you have Sahel, you have Sudan, you have Guinea, you have plain lands, you have hillsides, you have mountains, volcanic lakes, a waterfall. We have a game reserve, which sadly has been taken over by Boko Haram now. We have a national park. Yet, even people within the state do not know these things. Now, the one of the reasons why this has not been developed is the fact that, like I said, the fact that the state knows that at the end of the month it can afford to just be lazy, and at the end of the month it gets federal allocation. It can afford to have an unproductive civil service and to get federal allocation. It can afford to put people who are not qualified to be civil servants and to get federal allocation. That federal allocation I gets monthly without having to do anything has not spurred it to act on its potentials. And even if it does try to act on its potentials, the money it will could make through VAT and through company income taxes, the only money it can make if it grows economic activity is via is a personal income tax, which is not as much compared to company income taxes and VAT. Now, take away or reduce as much as possible federal allocations. Necessity is the mother of invention. You see states such as Borno State begin to look at what can we do to grow the state. Is it agriculture? Can we boost wheat farming and rice farming and soybean farming? Can we boost tourism? Can we boost low cost manufacturing? Can we look at there are many opportunities, as many as far as it exists. No, but what are you doing to grow it? And that's one of the reasons I support restructuring, because I see it as also a way to boost my state. It's not a way of just saying, I think this one thing the North needs to look at. It's not a way of saying we're punishing the North. It's about saying, look, you can go better than this, but you need this as an insight, as a push to get there.
I absolutely agree with you, Mark. When it comes to poverty uh, and the way Nigeria is, the force, it's like just We are not only poor, but there's just so much regulation, just so much government force everywhere. Um, so that kind of system that base itself based on begets force, begets violence. That's why it's absolutely necessary to release the system, empower people, and let people figure out how to survive. And people always do survive. I mean, look at villages. I've lived. I was fortunate enough to have lived most of my life in what you refer to as a village or a ghetto, and there's complete absence of government. But still, people are able to. You can start up a business. You know, when I was little, I've done all kinds of business. My sister, through my mom and my sister, I sold pure water. I sold cassava. I sold ice. I sold fruits. You know, you can start your business without requiring a license. You can do all of this. So you know, people always find a way to survive, and you just need to release them. Basically, I think at the core of this issue, that's what it is. And because Nigerians are not free, um, only the elites, there are people in government, people with big companies like Dangote that are having government power used to enrich themselves. I don't really enjoy the system, and up, and on top of that, you have the allocation. The allocation is absolutely 50% of the issue. You cannot subsidize someone continuously and expect that person to be productive. Um, so, um, to conclude, Mark, I would like if you would touch on what you think this restructure through federalism debate is headed. Do you think Nigeria might be restructured in few months, few years, in another lifetime, maybe our children's generation? Where do you think it's headed?
In answering to this, I think we're still a long way off from restructuring. And I think the first step will have to be for us to define what exactly how I mean when I say we, I mean proponents or people in the whole and pro restructuring movement to define exactly what they mean by restructuring. And that's one thing that's been hugely missing from the debate. So you see headlines of newspapers saying restructuring, restructuring, but there's hardly any definition on what exactly does it mean to restructure. It's not like it's not going to come without resistance. So unless you start by defining what exactly it means to you as pro in the pro movement, you can't able to win over people or break down resistance. In a few months, I doubt, and especially as it will need constitutional amendment. I think in many ways we missed the train of this recent constitutional amendments where it failed. So it will need a lot of push to have a constitutional amendment based on that. I think at best it will come maybe the next assembly, maybe post 2019. But first of all, we have to start getting okay. What how about doing by restructuring? How do we want it to go? Define it and then push for that specific thing you're aiming at.
Thank you for listening to The Tongue is Mightier Than the Sword. The goal of this audio series is to encourage Nigerians to embrace the power of dialogue as the best and only acceptable method of political, economic, and social change in the country. To participate in the program, reach me on my WhatsApp number +1 319 296 5799 and tell me if you think Nigeria needs separation, restructuring, or the current system. On behalf of my guest, I'm your host and producer, Adamu Muhammad Dankore.